We are live. WeatherBrains episode number 462. This is for December 1st, the first day of meteorological winter. And for those of you that are new to the show, this is not the Purdue show. We start that in about 10 minutes. This is the part of the show where we get our act together. We share boring personal stories and humorous anecdotes. Why are you laughing? I almost said something ugly, didn't I?
We never get our act together. Are you kidding me?
No, we haven't in all these years. And we have one guy with cheese on his head.
Was that a great game yesterday? Oh, my goodness.
So Aaron Rodgers and the Packers beat the Patriots.
They sure did. That's a preview, perhaps, of the Super Bowl. We'll see.
By the way, I think when Dr. John pulls off that cheese thing, his toupee is going to come off with it. We'll finally know that that's not his real hair. Nobody should have hair that good. Nobody. They should look like this. If you really forecast weather in an operational trench, you should look like this. Brian, I don't know how he retained all that hair. I mean, look at this. He looks like a werewolf or something. What's up with all that hair?
I need to get to the barber. I really do, especially before Thursday when I have to back you up. Just in case I have to back you up.
Yeah, Thursday is live. What is? I don't even know what that is. This is Live Shot City. And then Friday, I don't know if you're involved in that. I don't know if Megan's in town.
No, I'm doing Friday too.
Okay, because Friday, I'm doing the. I'm not doing any of the early shows here. That's all you then. I will be in Cullman.
But you're doing them from up there, right?
Well, I don't know. I've not heard from them. I said if you want me to go live, I can do the 4 and the 5. I can't do the 6. The Christmas parade starts at 6. This, by the way, is Christmas parade season. For those that don't know, and for those of us schmucks in television, we are inundated with requests to be in Christmas parades. Why? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But in fact, I had a horrible, traumatic experience in one of these Christmas parades back. I want to say this was in like 1981. So back in those days, you threw candy, and I guess they still do maybe in some parades.
Yeah,
they still do it.
I was up there in the front throwing candy. Well, they had put some Tootsie Pops in this bag. You guys know what those things are, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So
who'd you hit the head?
Understand, in 1981, I was 25 years old. I was a young man with upper body strength and kind of wiry and had little zing to it. And so I launched one of those Tootsie Pops and cracked a business window in downtown Gadsden, Alabama.
Oh, no! All right.
Whenever they ask me to be in one of these Christmas parades, I just say, I think I'll pass on throwing the candy. I'll let somebody else do that.
Either that or they buy the rider on the insurance,
Yeah, yeah, boy, that was a total disaster.
Well, at least you didn't poke somebody's eye out, James.
No, I'd rather break a window than bonk some kid in the head. Yeah. So, Kev, what's happening on the air at KFDM Television, Channel 3?
That would be KFDX.
Well, close enough. I'm learning. It's a new gig.
I don't know what's happening at KFDN, but here, it's good. Boy, what a great show you guys had last week. I was just devastated that I couldn't stay for more of it and participate. That was really good.
I enjoyed that. That was good. Let me get our guest on here.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to participate much tonight. Does this sound too bad? I'm on the onboard mic.
You're
good,
right.
Man. Looks like the front's through you. Wow.
6:07 last night, faux pas at my house while I was
faux pas, a blue norther.
Well, absolutely.
Yep.
How cold is it now out there?
28.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we did 78 yesterday. 34 today.
Wow. How deep is this cold air? About 10 feet?
Kevin's got that big neck, man. He might stick up in the inversion. It might not be warm up there where he is.
Top of my head was just fine today. Everybody else was cold.
Now that is a shallow cold air mask.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. All right, so I've invited our guest and with his Gmail address, and I think we'll actually start this thing on time.
Woohoo!
Shock.
Actually, it is warm around 800 millibars at Norman, so.
So what's Rick doing tonight? Has he got some kind of private Christmas function he's attending, or what?
I have no idea. I just saw that he said he was out.
I don't know how deep the cold air is because Rick hasn't gotten me my upper air side like he promised last week.
Exactly. I thought you'd have it up and running by now. So
800 millibars is not too shallow, but
you're doing a 9 o'clock, Kev, on the what is it, a Fox channel? What affiliate is that? He's muted. Hello.
Yeah, no, yes, and to be honest with you, I don't fully know the entire business relationship yet, but yeah, we have a Fox 9 o'clock show.
I believe the business relationship, Kevin, is you work and they get paid.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. This market's weird too because the ABC station is up in Lawton, and as I understand it, the same company now owns that one up there and the CBS station that is just half a mile down the road here. So I don't know how they manage that, but it's kind of a weird situation. Yes, thank you.
No, I had to be sure my music's working. All right, so I've invited our guest and I don't see him. Let me try that again.
Are you doing
Traditionally,
that Sir Pablo address, James?
you know what? I was actually using the NOAA.gov address.
Yeah.
Shame.
Oh, well.
Shame.
Yeah.
Now.
Shame on James.
Yeah, shame on me.
So, James, how am I sounding?
You sound good.
Bad? So there's no issues with clipping or softening, hardening?
If anything, it might be a tad hot. Just a slight.
It's a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
I can
tone
welcome that down.
our cable television viewers. Welcome. For those of you watching on James Span 24/7, this is December 1st, WeatherBrains 462, about to get the show underway here. And I'm shocked at the number of people that watch us on that channel. You know, traditionally that thing just runs weather. I was stopped in a local drugstore the other day, and somebody said, "I like that thing y'all do on Monday nights." He couldn't think of the name of the show, but I said, "What thing on Monday nights?" He said, "You know, we all sit around and you bring in these strange people and you talk about weather." Strange people.
Bring in those strange people.
Yeah.
I believe that's your show title for tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Show title.
Bring in the strange people.
Exactly. No,
Or how about bringing in the cheese? Right?
Yeah, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a strange people right there. Now, Paul is about to join the hangout as he's going to see John here with this thing. This is great. This is our PhD.
Have one of those.
Highly educated, top of the line research guy here. His brain is so big it's just exploded out of his head into a clear cheese.
Oozing cheese.
I always thought brains were pink, but they're yellow. Okay, all right, good.
All right, who's
Then
eating?
why do they call it gray matter?
Why is it always me that gets in trouble for eating?
Because you're always eating, Bill.
This app is using features from a newer version of the Google Talk plugin. Upgrade now. Didn't I just do this last week?
You got the same message last week. Yeah.
Oh no!
I wish you could learn to stay, on top of things, James.
He's one of these early adopters, you know.
Well, it's like and what happens when this box comes up? It makes this ding that never stops. It just goes
You
ding.
mean the dinger is getting
ding,
dinged?
ding, ding.
I think that's poetic justice.
Let me see what happens if I actually install this while the Hangout is running. This will be interesting.
Oh,
that'll be
get ready to rejoin the hangout, guys.
I'm about to say, yeah. This whole thing's about to blow sky high.
Amen. Speak again.
So I'm going to drop out and come right back. So stand by.
Can he do that?
He can.
Nate, talk. Don't do the do.
Oh, you don't like the do thing? I like
No,
the
I want to hear how
thing.
you sound.
That thing
This is a mic
do.
check. This is a mic check. We are checking the mic to make sure that it is not too hot or too cold, too soft or too hard.
You sound good. There's a little bit of hollowness, but that's
Yeah, that's because the room I'm in no longer has the furniture in it that we used to have.
okay.
That's
Well, other
that's
than
getting
that,
fixed in a few minutes.
that is better.
You've been
Just
selling
go-
off your furniture?
Selling off, disposing of any way I can because the cats peed on it. Yeah, sure.
Show title. The cat's
Show
peed
title.
on it.
That's the funny thing is that's not the ask me when we do the introductions and I'll tell you about my Thanksgiving week and how expensive it was.
Oh, good. See, whenever we say boring personal stories, this is what we mean.
no.
This might be a good one. All right. Hey, Paul, can you hear us? Yo, Paul. Talk to me. Yo, Paul.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, boy, we have a 10-second latency. This is not good.
All right. Kick me out again, and I'll join in on my phone. We had this. I was trying to bill earlier, and it didn't work out too good on the laptops.
Yeah, phone work fine. Yeah,
it
just
sounds
drop
like
out and rejoin with the same
problem.
invitation, Paul, and you'll be fine. Yeah, I found a candy you can throw at parades, James, that causes concussions.
Great.
Oh, Jawbreakers.
The question is, will
So
it break windows?
No, but it causes concussions. So, the Helena, I think, Christmas parade will have you, Oh, they have Brian. They have Brian to throw candy, so.
No, I'm the MC.
Oh, there you go. So you still got a position in the candy thrower.
Yeah,
All right, I'm here.
I can't
You
drive
guys
the
can hear?
chaser in the Helena.
Yeah, Paul, can you hear us okay? Yo, Paul.
We need Paul.
Hello. How are you? I'm here.
Yeah, let's see if we have a latency issue. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Not bad.
Yeah, it sounds like he's hearing us about 10 seconds late for some reason. Paul, can you hear us now?
I can hear you right now.
That's a 4-second latency.
That's 4 seconds, yeah.
That's pretty strange. Typically,
So what about
not
4
much.
seconds? For what, a second and a half per time zone?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like his video is frozen. Paul, are you on what kind of pipe you got there?
Supposedly, I've got the best that Cox can offer us residential folks.
Wow. And again, if we can't get the video okay, most people listen, so we can live without the video if we have to. The issue, it sounds like it's going to be a latency problem in that you're hearing us about 4 seconds after we ask a question. It's almost like we're interviewing somebody by satellite in Saudi Arabia, that lag. But we'll give it a shot. We're bold and daring guys here. We'll just plow into it. So let's get this thing started. We are recording track 1, recording track 2, and here we go. Strap in for an adventure in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Hey, WeatherBrains episode number 462. This is for December 1st, 2014, the beginning of meteorological winter. So Christmas lights are everywhere. It's a great time of the year. This is James Spann hosting the program this week, and we have our regular guest panelist. If you are missing, let's just first off go through the absentees. Aubrey Urbanowitz is out tonight. Aubrey is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And we have Rick Smith out. Rick is the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. But I think everybody else is intact, including the internationally beloved meteorologist Brian Peters. Brian, is your Christmas tree up at your home?
No, we don't have a Christmas tree. I'm sorry.
What?
Well, that's because my wife is allergic. So she's allergic to live trees, and then we found out that when you get an artificial tree, that guess what it does over the years? It collects all this dust, and that causes almost as big a problem as the natural trees. So we have this nice, about 3 foot 3 foot tall wooden Christmas item that looks like a Christmas tree.
A wooden Christmas item.
Yeah,
Oh, brother.
it looks like a Christmas tree. It's
If you look up Scrooge and Bah Humbug in the dictionary, it's the same
That's
line.
not true. That's not true. That's not true at all.
I think it's a total scam.
Yeah.
It's a total scam. He's doing that to eliminate having to put up these trees. So do you decorate your lawn at all? You got lights out? I mean,
Yes, we have out Christmas banners on the front porch, and I discovered that one of my strings of icicle lights has got a some sort of short in it somewhere. Part of it is out, so I've got to replace part of it. So the Christmas lights aren't up yet, but I've got to get a replacement set for that string.
And by the way, we should mention every year around this time, toward the end of the month, Brian mysteriously disappears for a day or two. I'm not saying anything about that, but it's just look very carefully, for those watching, look very carefully at Brian and think about the man that does all that work around December 24th, December 25th. I've never seen those two guys in the same room.
You want me to show you what's in the closet behind me?
Yeah, go. This is great. So for those of you that are listening, Brian has left his broadcast position. He's walking back to his closet. This is very scary in that we have no idea what's going on. And he's bringing out I knew it!
Santa Claus suit.
So he's got the suit, and he's ready for this year. That's great.
Looks like it's been dry cleaned.
It's just like every time Brian gets on the show, I feel like I want to tell him the things I'd like for Christmas for some reason. I don't know. So that is old Saint Nick. Also with us is Dr. John, Mr. Cheesehead today. Put that thing on, John.
Absolutely.
So
celebration of last night's victory.
A Green Bay Packers win over the New England Patriots yesterday. You look good in that thing.
Oh, I'm such a die-hard Packer fan. Everything in the house on Sundays around here is green and gold. All the kids put their jerseys on. We have actually have a flashing Green Bay stoplight that I put up.
I would suggest you might be the biggest Green Bay fan in Pennsylvania.
Oh, may very well be the case. Most folks around here are Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Yeah. So does anybody like the Eagles up there?
Yeah, we do. It's split maybe 60-40. When I go give talks, I actually have a Green Bay Packer rain gauge that I show the kids. I ask them, what do we use this for? And they don't even get past that. They see the big green G on there, and they start giving me the boo.
Get this guy out of here. Yeah, all right. Well, Dr. John is going to be with us this evening. Kevin Selly, that's his camera, and Kevin is standing by to say hello, just like magic. He's there.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm here. I like most shows, I'm not going to be of much use because I'm still kind of feeling my way through here, but wanted to say hello and mention what a fantastic show with Jen last week. I was thinking about it all week, all the great conversation, and wondering, I'll have to get some contact information from somebody because I would love to maybe extend or bring back, temporarily the Weather Insiders program because she had such good comments and questions for broadcasters, and that was sort of the purpose of that show. Maybe we could get her involved in that maybe after the first time of the year, James.
Cool. So how's life in Wichita Falls? How cold is it?
It's so cold. We hit 78 yesterday. The front came through my house at 6:07. I was out putting up Christmas decorations, and the wind picked up, and we had a high of 34 today.
Goodness. Wow. Where we are, in my market, the high today was 73.
Wow.
Missed a record high by 2, and just up the road, Memphis at midday was at like 37. Classic thermal contrast. But yeah, Kevin's in the cold air. So you're still working there, and they said this job wouldn't last. I mean, this is great.
I've managed to avoid the business office person who already wants me gone, but I figure if I'm showing up and stay one step ahead of her, then I'll be okay.
All right, cool. Well, Kevin will be. Hello.
Oh, that's her now.
Wow.
Wow. I've got to go.
Okay. Yeah. When you listen to this show, we have no idea what sounds are coming from where. We had Nate Johnson From Raleigh, North Carolina, Nate wants to share a boring personal story, so go.
So on Sunday, my in-laws were more than halfway here to North Carolina.
Uh-oh, we're losing Nate.
For
Hey,
guest room.
Hang
when
on.
we go to after
Hello.
check the guest
Hey,
bed.
Nate.
Hello, I'm here. I can hear you fine.
Well, you're coming and going.
Yeah, boy, Nate's gone. Hey, your bandwidth has gone to 0. We missed the first 20 seconds of your story, and he's gone. Boy, this is great. We got people just coming and going here. We got Bill Murray working some bottle cap, but that is some serious noise you're working. What is that you're drinking there, Bill? Is that a Buffalo Rock?
I think my business office person got Nate.
No,
he's the Kraken.
Yeah, no, Nate, your bandwidth with 0. So try that boring story again.
Am I better now?
At the moment, you are, yes.
Okay, we'll take it. So I am. We go up to in-laws have left Texas for North Carolina on Saturday, expecting them sometime Sunday evening. So Sunday afternoon, we go to change the sheets on the guest bed and find that the cats have ruined the guest bed. And so I had to make a couple of phone calls.
You can say Pete on the show. It's okay.
Yeah, Anyway, so yeah, they ruined the guest bed, and so on Sunday afternoon, I had to, in a very hurried fashion, attempt to replace a mattress and box spring, and was able to do it. Mike at the local shop here was able to not only set me up with a mattress in my price range, and I am cheap, but was able to have it delivered on the same day on a Sunday.
Wow.
It's pretty good stuff.
That's good.
Wow. That's amazing.
Perks of being on television.
Yeah, and then the day before Thanksgiving, our dishwasher crapped out.
Would that be you or a machine?
That would be a machine. It's been an expensive week.
Yes, it has. It's not even Christmas yet.
I pulled up at our house Saturday morning. I had to go somewhere, and I noticed my wife had a flat tire. So I drove it down to the tire place, and naturally, all 4 were shot. And then she had to have all this. The bottom line is, it cost me about $1,000, down at the car shop. So you guys have been there before. But Bill Murray is viciously drinking something and eating something. What are you ripping into over there?
It's the best candy in the world, a lemon head, James, which is a very sour jawbreaker. And
what is this bottle you're twisting here?
Diet Pepsi.
Okay. This show brought to you by
Buffalo Rock.
Buffalo Rock and Diet Pepsi.
Charge him $100,000 for that.
There you go. We'll send him an invoice. So, Bill, bring in our guest before he hangs it. He's already hung up on us 10 times, so we'll try it.
he thought he was calling a show about weather, and then he just like, wait a minute, I got the wrong show. But anyway, welcome back, Paul. But anyway, I'm going to introduce you in a second. James, you got to go get Joseph Renkin. I put the information in the chat there. He's your guest panelist tonight, and he's waiting on your invite.
Sorry, I guess I didn't read my first mail long enough here. So
yeah, come on, Span, get with the program.
I'm really struggling. I just don't know what's going on here.
Hey, don't make
all
excuses.
This extensive show prep we do,
That's right. We spend hours and hours prepping this show so that.
And by that we mean we spend hours and hours ignoring it.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
After 9.5 years, you figured, well, nothing's going to change, so why should we try? But anyway, tonight's guest WeatherBrain is the Sioux at the National Weather Service in Hanford, California. He is from Minnesota, but he's worked in National Weather Service offices all over the country. His undergraduate degree is from St. Cloud State University, and his master's is from Arizona State. Paul Enriquez, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Hey guys, happy to be here. I got an internet connection finally that seems to work okay, so we'll run with it.
Well, let's use it while we got it. That's great. But Paul, you probably have the longest commute of anybody we've ever had on the WeatherBrains show in 9.5 years. Tell us about your commute.
Yeah, I got kind of a unique situation right now. I worked in the Phoenix office for a number of years before I went to Hanford. I've been in Hanford for 2.5 years now. And my family and I recently moved back to Phoenix because my wife started a PhD program at Arizona State University. So right now, for the most part, I am flying back to California Sunday night and working the week, and then I come back here to Phoenix on Thursday. So it's kind of a long commute, but it's worth it right now. It's a real good opportunity for my wife, and I have a really good job in Hanford.
Well, it's outstanding to have you on the show tonight, and we're really excited about some of the topics we'll be talking about. So stand by. I'm going to introduce the guest panelists, and then we'll dig into some interesting information from your career and also from your office where you are now. But,
all right.
Tonight's guest panelist became a super moderator of the AccuWeather.com forums back in 2008. Since then, he's become a storm spotter for various National Weather Service offices where he's lived. He's a storm chaser and now serves as the volunteer meteorologist at KOPN. Joseph Rankin, it's nice to finally get you on the show. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm ecstatic of being here.
Well,
very happy.
That makes one of us, Joseph. So thank you very much for your enthusiasm.
Drum roll.
Down now.
But anyway, seriously, it is great to have you on the show tonight. Tell us briefly how you got into weather, Joseph. What got you interested in this crazy thing we call meteorology?
Well, I'm just like any other weather geek that starts off really young, watching the storms blow in, then various, whether they be thunderstorms or snowstorms, it didn't matter. I was always out there fighting with my parents, them telling me to get back inside. I ran out instead. And, that passion evolved once the internet took off. I started reading stuff online, and that brought me to 2008, where I started looking over the AccuWeather.com forums, and it's been, I don't know if you call it downhill since then or not, but it's been a whirlwind easily.
Well, it's really cool to have you on the show tonight. The holy grail of forecasting is anything out, beyond 7 days, and Joseph is going to share some of the successes he's having tonight with, nailing forecasts in that time frame. So it'll be interesting to talk about how he's doing that. So thank you for joining us tonight, Joseph, for sure.
Thank you.
We'll get back around to you in just a second. But back to you for a minute, Paul. Here, let's talk about the climate of California, because Western shows are since we're mainly in the East, we like getting folks on from the West because we really like talking about things like that. We had a little geography lesson tonight earlier with Brian in the pre-show about where Hanford was, and he didn't believe it really was the office. So talk about your office and where you're located and what's all in your CWA.
Yeah, we are actually an office. I saw something floating around the internet a couple of months ago, people trying to fill in the names of all the different forecast offices across the country, 122 of them, and unfortunately Hanford was last. It's just not a very, people think Hanford, where is that? It's Hanford itself, the city is about 55,000 people, so it's not exactly tiny. There's definitely offices in smaller cities. But we are situated about 45 minutes south of Fresno and about an hour and 15 minutes north of Bakersfield. So we serve both of those medium markets. Our forecast area itself includes the San Joaquin Valley and also the southern half of the Sierra Nevada. The northern half goes to the Sacramento office. And we actually even cover a little bit of the Mojave Desert in the eastern part of Kern County. So it's a pretty sizable area. The population of our forecast area is about 3.5 million people or so. It's population-wise, we're in the top third of forecast areas.
Well, that's interesting. Brian, like I said, didn't believe me that was the office. He gave me a long explanation about how the National Weather Service Birmingham is in Calera, but it's not called the National Weather Service in Calera. So, anyway, he finally believed.
I think technically our office name is San Joaquin Valley, but to me, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense because we do forecasts for the Sierra and other areas too, and San Joaquin Valley is kind of an area, not necessarily a place, so we usually just call it Hanford.
Well, it's outstanding. So talk about the hottest, the coldest, the driest, the wettest. It sounds like you got a little bit of everything there from from Mount Shasta to the Mojave Desert, Yosemite, and major cities like Fresno. So talk about some of the weather that you deal with on a week-in, week-out basis.
Yeah, so Shasta would be a little further north. I think that's Sacramento area. We basically pick up.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We basically pick up the Sierra Yosemite National Park. We forecast in the entire park, and then go all the way down south, basically as you get towards the mountains that border the northern end of Los Angeles. So it can get very wet, obviously, up in the mountains there. On average, Yosemite in that area gets on the order of 60 inches of rain a year. And if you come down into the San Joaquin Valley itself, the average annual rainfall is about anywhere from about 12 or 13 inches in the northern part. If you go all the way down towards Bakersfield and west of Bakersfield, the annual rainfall is somewhere like 4 to 5 inches. So it's a pretty big difference, obviously a big orographic effect with the really big mountains. We do have the highest point in the lower 48 states in our forecast area. That's Mount Whitney is at 14,454 feet, I believe. So that's interesting to forecast for up there. We, of course, don't have any weather instruments that high, but we do have some up in the ridge tops, and they can get very windy. We've had winds. There's a ridge to the east of the Sierra. There's a research station up there. It's about 12,000 feet, and they've had winds up to like 180 miles an hour or so, I believe, over there. So it gets pretty dang strong. You go over the Mojave Desert, obviously, it's the Mojave Desert, so it's pretty dry. The annual rainfall out there is somewhere like 2 to 3, 4 inches. We have very dry years, like what we are going to be talking about tonight, where we've had very little rain. We've had other years where it's just been lots and lots of rain during our wet season. So it's going to be quite varied. It's a Mediterranean climate out there, so we have a very pronounced wet season, a very pronounced dry season. There's actually days in Fresno's historical record. We've had weather observations at Fresno for about 120 years. There's actually calendar days during the summer where it's never rained in those 120 years.
Really?
It's kind of interesting.
That's amazing.
So if we get trace rainfall, sometimes that's record rainfall. So
Here's a
snow.
trivia question.
Yeah.
Snow, of course, lots of snow up in the Sierra. One of our highest snow locations we have is Lodgepole. That's up in Sequoia National Forest. They've had winters where they've measured 30 to 40 feet of snow. They have visitor lodge up there too, so usually during the wintertime they'll actually put a gate fence up against the windows to keep the snow from smashing the windows in, because it just basically covers the buildings. They just forget about that stuff during the wintertime. It can get hot. That at highest normal temperature that Bakersfield gets to is about 107 or so during the summertime. So, I mean, it's not really that much cooler than Las Vegas or Phoenix. Fresno tops out about 105. I can't really tell you how exactly cold it gets because, again, we don't have really good instrumentation way up in the highest elevations of the Sierra. So I mean, we got peaks that are, 12, 13, 14,000 feet. So there's times where that's probably, maybe dipping into the stratosphere a bit even during really strong storms. So it has to get really cold up there. But for the most part, down in the floor of the San Joaquin Valley, it can definitely get below freezing. Last December when we had a real strong cold snap, we did have lows that were in the 20s, even a few teens, which caused a lot of damage to the agriculture industry there.
So, Paul, you mentioned the rainy season being part of the Mediterranean climate. What is your rainy season, and are you moving into it now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It really starts to pick up in October and lasts through about April. So about those 6 months of the year, that's our real pronounced wet, rainy season. Then we get out of that, and it gets real hot and dry. So that's, basically it's June, July, August. That's the time of year where we've had those 120 years of records where there hasn't been rainfall on some of those calendar days. So it's kind of interesting, too. I mean, during the summertime when we're in the dry part of the season, there's one of the big things that's grown in the valley is grapes. And they make raisins, sun-dried raisins. They literally are grapes. They cut the grapes and they lay them on wax paper, and they sit out in the sun for about 2 weeks in the valley. If they get rain, anything more than like 5 or 10 1/100ths of an inch of rain, that can actually ruin their rain crop, their raisin crop. So it's something that they're very sensitive to. But again, it's the time of year where it's very freakish if rain does occur.
So, Paul, you look at the map from the drought monitoring app for the United States, and it just looks like a disaster in California. Explain the scope of this drought, when it began, how long has it been going on, and what have been some of the impacts?
Yeah, I don't know if you can share any of that stuff, the slides I did send you guys. The drought's really kind of started to take hold in about 2012. It's one of this latest wave of droughts that's come. So I think drought is very much a part of the climate in California. This is nothing unusual. Droughts have existed long before humans have. We know this by looking at the dendrochronology records, and there's some really, really significant droughts if we look back, hundreds or a few thousand years. Unfortunately, California was kind of settled during a really wet period in its history for that part of the world. And so everyone just kind of thinks, oh, this is how much rain we usually get, and that's not really the case. So the one we're in right now, it really started about 2012 and really took off during last year, during 2013. It's just continued up to where we're at right now. It's the first time since the drought monitors existed that we've had the D4 exceptional drought in California. And it really has been pretty exceptional. I mean, we've had, as you kind of go through the levels of drought, you progress from a meteorological drought with just a deficiency in rainfall to a hydrologic drought where your reservoirs are getting low, and then you kind of hit this like socioeconomic, or I'd almost even call it a political drought, where you really have the politicians and the state governments and even federal governments are involved in trying to, do what they can for the situation. And we've definitely hit that last level as we've gone through the last year or so. Surprisingly, California, despite its perception of being a very regulated state, was the last state in the country to not have groundwater use regulated. So that actually just passed this last year and was signed into law. So that's something that's going to be phased in over the next few years. Because right now it's just basically people can drill, and if they can get to water, then it's theirs, despite any impacts from it.
So, I've seen other issues that have come out of the groundwater debate there in California. What other political ramifications has it had, Paul?
Well, drought's always a touchy subject, especially in the Central Valley, because all the agriculture is very highly sensitive to water use, of course. So that's kind of it's always been a very political topic. Getting outside my area of expertise, of course, but you start looking at other impacts for the water usage. A big thing is the Environmental Protection Act of 1974, I think it is, which regulates a certain amount of flow needs to go down the major rivers of Northern California as they head towards the Delta and the Bay Area, and that's to maintain a certain rate of water that's moving through there to protect different fish species. So that can be has been very controversial. People, some people look at it as protecting endangered species. Other people looking at it as you're flushing fresh water out into the ocean for no good reason. So, we hear a lot of those debates. Being in the weather office, it's something that's, not applicable to what we do day in and day out.
Now, of course, we always think that El Nino really becomes a savior in these sort of situations, but that's not necessarily true, is it, Paul?
No, definitely not. And that's something that we've had to work a bit at messaging. People tend to associate, especially in California, you start bringing out the El Nino.
Yeah, Paul has been on the edge the whole time, and he finally fell off. You can always tell with that marginal bandwidth. At any minute they're going to go, and we lost him. So.
Hopefully he'll be back in just a second, James. But let's switch over to Joseph for a second, because Joseph's got some interesting information for us. So, Joseph, talk about this technique that you're using to look 6 to 30 days out to to come up with some forecasts that have some skill.
Yeah, what we do, my research team, which composes of Dr. Anthony Lupo at the University of Missouri, Atmospheric and Science. Environmental Sciences Department, Josh Herman, who lives in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Daniel Parker lives in Chillicothe, Illinois, graduated from Western Illinois University, and then you have Travis, who's also a student at Moberly Area Community College, going to transfer to University of Missouri. We call it organic forecasting, which is utilizing the intraseasonal oscillation, the typhoon rule, which is the weather in East Asia correlates to the eastern United States 6 to 10 days later, and that was developed in the 1940s during the Pacific theater of World War II. And then the Bering Sea rule, which I found in 2011, which correlates what's happening in the Bering Sea to the eastern United States roughly 17 to 21 days later. If modeling is agreeing with each other in the Bering Sea, I can stretch that to 30 days. If you go to 10 days after. So, 17 to 21 days just from observations, and up to 30 days if the models are in concert with each other.
So you mentioned, that Typhoon Nuri was basically proved this theory that you have. And so talk about how that related and what the direct impact was in the United States and how far apart the signal and the eventual result was.
Well, Typhoon Nuri is just one of the case studies that we're utilizing. What happened is that Typhoon Nuri at first was not being developed by the models. So that's why mid-October everybody was seeing a warm start to November and also a warm middle of November. And then once Nuri got caught on by the models, it got ingested into the jet stream and made the trough even more pronounced and amplified over East Asia. And then, of course, once it went extratropical bomb in the Bering Sea, the combination of the typhoon rule with the Bering Sea rule kept those 2 weeks of November just brutally cold. Because what happened was once it bombed to 924 in the Bering Sea, it pumped up the ridge over Alaska, which allowed, by the way, there was a wave response over Siberia, which helped break up the vortex somewhat. Didn't create a very pronounced SSW, but created enough that the cold air just spilled into the eastern United States due to the combination of the typhoon rule the week before and the extratropical at that point, Nuri being in the Bering Sea.
So Joseph, what are your techniques showing you for the month of December and moving into deeper into meteorological winter and then into January and February? How far out can you see? What do you think we're going to experience in the United States over the next 30 days?
Well, I'm looking into a very cold period at the end of the month, by the mid-month, starting roughly about the 24th into the beginning of January, because there's a pronounced trough over the Bering Sea, and due to the typhoon rule, I've been able to guess cold frontal passages, FROPAs, within a day or two of when they, from when they're in East Asia over correlating to the eastern United States. So let me look real quick since I've got you guys up here. My latest forecast from the long range was that on the 28th of November, 28th of November, all models converge on a system in the beginning of December through December 7th over East Asia with mid-Missouri effects. Cold front on the 8th with 2 more on the 10th and 12th. Now that's that pronounced trough that's over East Asia right now. And then zonal flow is showing up in East Asia. We'll follow up with a warming until another cold front on the 16th for central Missouri. Same upper level low will pump up a ridge in the southwest Bering Sea at the beginning of December, as highlighted below. A quick moving system enters the Bering Sea on December 1st with warming immediately through the 4th. An upper level low rotates from the northeast, stays in the region until December 6th at least. This means the chance of a white Christmas is there, and a colder than normal temperatures continue until the end of the month. Also, keep in mind there is sudden stratospheric warming event in process over Siberia and could lead to colder temperatures than Prague. And what I do is I basically take a North Pacific view of the models because it shows both East Asia and the Bering Sea. So because of that, I'm able to look at both sides of the organic forecasting in one snapshot, if you will. And because what happens in the Bering Sea, we correlate and can actually follow it with the typhoon rule, and then that's like our verification, if you will, to what will happen eventually that was originally forecasted by the Bering Sea rule.
So you mentioned that your forecast has gotten some attention even at the Senate level. Talk about that for a minute, Joseph.
Yes, Senator McCaskill's office has given me full access to applying for grants, and I have her full support after submitting my request to them, and they performed their research on what I was doing. So I'm in the process, my team, if you will, is in the process of requesting grant money from the National Science Foundation. So,
well, if you get in, send us some over here with the brains, because we can sure use it. Since, the last time we got a paycheck was well before the California drought started. Yeah.
What's the weather going to be like in March of next year?
Oh, no, not that. We don't go that far. Except for we do have. It's part of the intraseasonal oscillation, and which correlates with the Rossby wave, how the Rossby waves travel through the Earth, and my colleague Josh Herman has a website that he has developed an algorithm where he can forecast into next year. And hold on real quick, Mr. Span. His let me get it up here. His website is playerstour.net, and was originally thought of as Gary Lezak's Lezak reoccurring cycle, but the more and more that Josh researched that, we found out that it's so connected with everything else that it's almost ridiculous. Like the MJO, for instance, I just read a paper the other day from a professor at PSU, Penn State, that the MJO is correlated to SSWs. And it's one of my favorite sayings is it's all related. The MJO, the Rossby wave, intraseasonal oscillations, because technically a sudden stratospheric warming is an intraseasonal oscillation. And that's why we were able to connect the dots, if you will, and we're trying to develop our own indice to help forecast that even better.
Well, it's neat information, and we appreciate you coming on and sharing. We hope you stick around to the end of the show, Joseph, since you're one of the panelists, get some questions together here for Paul, since we got him back, and we're glad to have you here tonight. Thanks for finally getting with us.
Thank you.
And so Paul, good to have you back. It seems like you're pedaling a little faster on the old bandwidth meter over there in Phoenix.
I think a pedal might work out better if I had that, actually.
So, but anyway, you were talking about the drought and what you're dealing with there. Your office has had an important role in in this, and let's talk about how it's impacted your operations and the products that you produce for your clients and your customers.
Yeah, the day-to-day when it's not raining, that's obviously, kind of what we're there for. When it's not raining, that's kind of more of a unique challenge for us. And how do we provide services to our customers for that? What ways we've been able to do that is, a lot of the California offices have been heavily involved in the drought monitor. We've been between all the offices. There's 6 offices that are located in California, 10 that serve the state. We have bi-weekly drought calls to coordinate where we're at, what kind of impacts are we hearing about. There's also some state-level people, the state climatologist gets on as well. And we just kind of help the drought monitor authors get some of that ground truth information that really helps them out. Some of the ways we've really been able to help contextualize this information too for not just state level people or our counties, but just any of our customers, anyone that follows us out on social media. We've been generating a lot of interesting graphics that have put how bad the current drought is in context. So I see one graphic that's showing up there. And this is a graphic that I generated looking at, I called it the missing years. So starting back in July of 2011. And going up through this last August and just seeing how much of a rainfall deficit was there, put in context of years worth of rainfall. And you can see some of those really kind of the dark red areas as you're going towards the Los Angeles area, but also the southern end of the Sierra Nevada there. That's approaching about 2 years worth of rainfall that are missing during the last 3 years. So it's a very significant drought there. I think one of the other slides too, slide 9 that was on there, was another graphic looking at the standardized precipitation and evaporation index, SSPEI. And this is something that we have that goes back to 1895. It uses data from National Climatic Data Center from NCDC. And the a rolling 12-month average this last, just ending this last winter, we actually hit the lowest on record. So, I mean, using some different indices, we can actually say that this is the worst drought that the state has experienced. So giving this context kind of really helps people understand just how bad things are, because not everyone's a farmer, not everyone has a well that's going to go dry. You know, low reservoir levels are sometimes a fairly abstract concept for people that don't live there, or again, they're not dependent on the groundwater. So this information kind of helps people realize just how bad the situation is.
So, Paul, in the process, you've got some rain coming in the near future. How much is that going to help, and what is it going to take to move these exceptional drought areas out of the seriousness of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, as we go through the winter time, I mean, it's obviously going to rain. It's raining again. I've told everyone, it will rain again, but without fail. We've never gone through a winter without it raining in California. But just how much rain is it going to take to end the drought? And that's a very complicated question that doesn't have an easy answer. We've been seeing some very significant impacts for people who have wells that are going dry. And we've read media reports now, you have well drilling companies that are backed up 6 to 12 months with work that they just don't have enough rigs to get out there. People are drilling deeper and deeper as well. There's one city near Hanford that spent, I think it was $3 million or so, and they're putting a well in that's about 1,500 feet deep. So, I mean, just think how much energy it takes to bring water up from 1,500 feet deep, and that's almost how deep some people are having to go to hit water. With all the wells going dry, that's something that's not going to, even if we have a pretty wet winter, I don't know if that's going to completely rectify that situation, because that's a very long-term impact you're having, is that you're drawing down the groundwater at great extent. The USGS measures ground level subsidence, which is a pretty big problem in the valley. There's some parts of the valley now that the ground is sinking on the order of 1 foot per year. I mean, that's really astounding. And when that's going on, you're crushing the underground aquifer, and that's water that's not going to come. That's an aquifer that's not going to get replenished. So, to some extent, we hear the number thrown around, and I honestly am not entirely sure where it comes from, but we're going to need something on the order of 150% of rain during the wintertime for big improvements in the drought. And sure, that would really help the reservoirs. The reservoirs just now are starting to hit the point in the wintertime where they're not going down anymore. They're starting to get more infiltration taking place, and that's later than usual. Normally that happens in October, so the fact that we're now in December and that's starting, that's about 2 months late. So the reservoirs are going to have to come up. But even if we say, okay, we need 150% of an average winter for the drought to end, I just ran some statistics, ran some simulations, and the probability of any winter ending up with 150% of average, it's like 2 or 3%. I mean, the vast majority of winters don't have that much rainfall. So it's going to take us quite a bit of time to dig out. So even though we're getting a big rain coming, tonight into the next few days, and we even have flash flood watches in parts of California because of the burn scars and debris flows forming. I mean, we're still very much entrenched in this very, very deep drought that's formed over the 3 years.
So that raises an interesting question, because are wildfires a part of the problem in your part of the state, Paul, in your CWA, or is that limited to different areas? Since you've got part of the Sierras in your CWA, does that affect you?
Yeah, definitely. We've had one of the biggest fires in California history, the Rim Fire, which occurred last summer. That burned right on the border between the Sacramento office and my office, the Hanford office up in the Sierra. I forget the exact number of acres it burned. It was something on the order of 240,000 acres or something like that, I believe. If you took that burn scar, that footprint, it would pretty much lay over the entire Fresno area. So, I mean, it would have, incinerated an entire city. That's how big of a footprint we're talking about here. So these are very significant. We have that. We have a number of other burn scars that have formed from the last year or two, which are not in very good places relative to cities and infrastructure that we're really concerned about. So, again, even though we're in this very serious drought, we have these rainstorms come in, and if the rainfall rates are high enough, which it really doesn't take that much rain, if we see something on the order of like half an inch of rain in an hour, that's enough to cause debris flows to form. And that can be very serious. I mean, that can be life-threatening situations that form. So these smaller weather events are still taking place inside the larger context of the big drought going on.
Paul, this is John Scala. I came across a time series plot within the last month or so, which showed the percentage of the western United States that's experiencing some form of drought, and placed that into perspective over much of the last 1,300 years. And the emphasis of this figure was that this is the greatest percentage of the western U.S. in drought since the year 1159, when slightly more than 55%, I think, of the western U.S. was in drought. So to me, that's the kind of information that needs to be disseminated to give some sense of the severity of this situation. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it's kind of like, I spoke to a little bit earlier that California and much of the western United States, honestly, was settled during the, late 20th century, early 21st century, and that was a pretty wet period for this part of the world. And so the fact that we built infrastructure and we kind of got situated, and accustomed to this is how much rain falls, and that's not the case at all. That was a very unusually wet time period. I don't think maybe a lot of people don't realize that. So it's not so much that we can't live in the western U.S. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, there's water here. Obviously, people can live, but it's just how does that water get used? And to some people, they don't understand that. And again, that's kind of that abstract concept of for most people. They live in urban areas in the United States. It's something like 80% of the population lives in urban areas. They go and they turn their faucet on and the water comes out. In California especially, we have the California aqueduct that transfers water hundreds of miles from Northern California down to Southern California. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting, concept. If Northern California has a significant deficit of rainfall and the reservoirs are low, does that mean Southern California is in a drought? I mean, it's kind of an interesting concept that people, it's very abstract again. And so, for the, everyday person, it's good information to have, but it's something I think more and more the decision makers and the state level people are knowledgeable about. One good thing about California, they have the Department of Water Resources. So the state, they have state resources that do look at this, and they are a very good state level agency. They work very closely with the National Weather Service. They're basically co-located with the Sacramento office. So they work with the Weather Forecast Office. They work with the River Forecast Center. We interact with their people. So they commission studies on their own. So I think that at least as far as the state of California goes, they're very much aware of what is usual, over a very long term, well before humans were even out here for the climate of this area.
So is there still controversy over controlled burns and things like that in places like Yosemite? Has that been an issue, or or is that a settled point at this time, Paul?
They still do controlled burns. I'm not exactly sure how controversial that is to any extent. I mean, I know we get the spot forecast in my office for when they do these burns, and we're happy to provide them the information. A lot of the big fires that take place, they're pretty rarely are they controlled burns that become uncontrolled burns. A lot of times the majority of them are lightning strikes, honestly. And then the other few, are just people, whether a small minority of them are actually intentionally set. A lot of the big fires, are just unintentional stuff, like campfires aren't properly put out, or chains are overheating and causing sparking and things like that. So, but there is definitely active burning that takes place.
Paul, there was an agreement that was made in California to try to get more of the Colorado River water all the way to the Gulf of California. Now, is this drought issue out there going to just take that agreement and just throw it away?
From the Colorado Basin, and I'm remembering back to some of my time while I was in Phoenix too, I believe that a certain amount of water is supposed to go to the country of Mexico basically every year, and we essentially don't ever give them any water. If you look at what the Colorado River, what it is once it actually gets down to the international border, it's like a small trickle of agricultural runoff water, and that's it. It's the Colorado Compact, I believe that was signed in 1914 or 15 or so. And again, that was even during this overall wet period that we've settled the West, even those years in particular were very wet. So when they are, signing this agreement on so many million acre feet are going to go to this state and that state, they were basing this on really high abnormal rainfall. So when we get back to what's usual and that rain's not there, then that starts to cause a lot of problems. So that's something that the states are definitely coming to, they're aware of and they're coming to grips with, but it's just how do they move forward? It's a difficult proposition.
Right. Yeah.
So interesting, to make a transition here from drought and fire and all those horrible things to something that really causes problems that we sort of joke about, from time to time on our side of the country. J.B. Elliott, our mentor and longtime WeatherBrains panelist, before he retired from the show earlier this year, Paul always talked about, he was a fog chaser. Fog's a serious problem in your office, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't have to chase it; it's going to find you in the valley. I got some pictures there in the slides too. I don't know if James has that on his screen there, but if you go to like slide 15 or so, starting from there and going forward a little bit. I mean, we have really dense fog. Locally it's called Tule fog. There's a good picture right there. Some of them right there. Here's the picture you're looking at there on his screen. I took this picture just a couple of winters ago. Went outside my office, and coincidentally, our address is 900 Foggy Bottom Road. It's the address. So the elders have a sense of humor, I guess. But it's incredibly foggy there. So that picture you see, that was just about, I think it's at like 8 in the morning or something like that. I just went outside and took a picture of the office, and you don't really see anything. It's totally fogged over. I go out there about 1:30 in the afternoon. Fog is totally dissipated, and now you see that the radar is right there in our backyard. The fog. I mean, the visibility can get down to 100 feet, 50 feet. It's very, very dense. I think I haven't done any hard research. I should back this up, but I'm under the working assumption that we're in one of, if not the foggiest inland locations in the United States. The Central Valley. If you go 2 slides down, somewhere there, I got kind of a topographic map that shows our forecast area, and then we have. You get the slide, yep, right there. That's perfect. We have the Sierra Nevada off to our northeast. We have the coastal mountains to our southwest. The Sierra Nevada, are all like 6 or 8 or 10,000 feet high. The coastal mountains are like 2,000 to 4,000 feet, and the only open area we have is to the northwest. So that dashed line in there, that's a cross section. We're just like a really nice, big, perfect bowl in the Central Valley. We get these rainstorms that come in, and it doesn't take that much rain to get the fog machine going. A quarter, half-inch rain in the valley, that's enough to kind of get this process going. And as fog will form, it cools off at night. We have the big bowl, everything settles in there, and there's this pure radiational fog develops. And it can be a really, it is a big impact. We talk about, what is the deadliest weather that different parts of the country have. Down in the southeast, you're looking at tornadoes and hurricanes. Might have derechos and all that kind of stuff. Out here, we just don't get that. As far as I know, I've looked at the records. No one's been killed by a tornado in the state of California. When you look at fog, on average, we have 5 people killed just in our part of the San Joaquin Valley. 5 people each year are killed in fog-related traffic accidents. So it's our biggest weather killer. It doesn't come and get you. It's not photogenic, we don't have the big, huge, wedge tornado moving towards the city or something like that. It's just there, and it's just kind of present. I have one of the satellite graphics there. I think if you go up 2 slides there, James, just kind of an example of how the fog looks during during a visible satellite. It just kind of fills in the bottom of the valley there. Sometimes it's not as widespread. Like this would be kind of like a pretty average day, I would say. It kind of clips the Fresno area, makes it down, its way down towards Hanford. Doesn't usually go down towards Bakersfield, but then there's other days where it can be incredibly thick, and it just fills the valley up like a bowl, and it'll go rims to rim, and we'll just have a widespread fog. And again, that causes some very severe, significant impacts. We have parts of the northern U.S. and the southern U.S. You have snow days when you have a lot of snow. They cancel school, or they come in 2 hours early. I grew up in Minnesota. I'm very familiar with that. In the Central Valley, we have fog days. When the fog is too thick, they'll have 1 or 2 or 3 hour delays so that hopefully the fog is visible clear and they can get the buses out and pick up those students. So it's kind of a bit on the fog. I mean, just a little too how much there is. I got one little scatter plot in there. Like on a typical year in Fresno, if you count fog, it's just a mile visibility or less. Pretty much IFR conditions or worse. A typical winter in Fresno is going to have about 300 hours of fog. Last year was the least foggiest, actually, because of the drought, because again, it's all related to the precipitation, the rainfall. We only had 17 hours of fog. That was the least amount of fog we had pretty convincingly. Early this winter, we're up to 30 hours, and we just started December, so we're already ahead of last year, which is pretty interesting. The most amount of fog we had was back in, looks like 80-81 that winter. We had 770 hours of fog. And it pretty much just about all forms between November and February. That's kind of the heart of our fog season.
So,
You must have an
Paul,
air quality problem there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, is that an issue, Paul, for the valley from an air quality standpoint? Stagnation also.
Oh, absolutely. I think the last slide I got in there, I looked through a little bit in there about air quality. It's a real problem. If you look at information that like the American Lung Association puts out, or a number of other publications, 7 of the 10 cities with the worst air pollution in the United States are in the San Joaquin Valley, in the Central Valley. We just have this very stagnant air that forms the boundary layer. During the summertime, the boundary layer might be 10 or 12,000 feet high. It's super high out in the west during the summer. During the wintertime, with a real strong inversion and the cold temperatures, we might be looking at a boundary layer that's like 500 feet. I mean, it's very, very little. And when we have this day after day after day after day of this air not mixing or going anywhere, we have very big transportation corridors. We have Interstate 5 and we have Highway 99 that both run, north to the valley. So it's a major trucking corridor between Los Angeles and the Bay Area. There's also a lot of trains that run through there, plus people, just driving around, and all the agriculture interest that has a lot of heavy machinery. That just adds a lot of particulate matter to the air, and we just get some really horrible air quality. During a couple of weeks ago, we were having some pretty bad air, and our AQIs, you can see there was like from Fresno area was 168, Hanford 173, Bakersfield 169. So we were having a pretty bad day. That's unhealthy air. And then that last one I have on the right side, that's actually the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. It was at 181. So there's these times where, Beijing can kind of have good days and we can have bad days, and the air quality will actually be worse in the Central Valley than it is in Beijing.
Wow. Wow.
So we don't have really good ways to detect fog. What are some of the ways that your office is, gathering information that helps you know what's going on, near you, in the field, Paul?
Yeah. You think visibility sensors, the biggest thing, of course, is going to be an ASOS or an AWAS. Unfortunately, those are very expensive, and you can't field them everywhere. We have about 6 of them in the valley. So it helps, but they're not really in the areas where the thickest fog forms. So we've been trying to find some additional ways to get information on where is fog, observation and forecast. So one of the graphics that I have, I think if you go one up, Mr. Stan, is we're trying to test out some satellite data, which is a combination between, this comes from the Sims folks at University of Wisconsin. You're combining model data from the RAP, and then you're also combining with the observed satellite data, and kind of a test bed for the new GOES-R, which is going to be launched coming up in the next year or so. And this gives us some probabilities at least of how thick the fog is. It gives us probability of either IFR or LIFR conditions. So it helps us detect, to some extent, where the fog is. So that's been helpful to some extent. On the right side, what I have there is basically a time lag ensemble from the HER. HER is a great new tool that we have available to everyone, and we're just testing out basically this winter to see how well does it do in the fog. So I'm running a time lagged ensemble and generating graphics for my forecasters to try to see, just one, where's the fog going to be, and I'm also archiving this data so we can go back after the winter is over, after the fog season, and see just how well did it do. I did do some verification work on the satellite data a year or two ago, and it does relatively well, but interestingly, it actually under-forecasts the fog by quite a bit. It could be much more aggressive than it is right now, but it does help us out in detecting where it is. We also just rely on the general public to send us reports on Twitter, and we also look for some of that kind of secondary impact data as confirmation as well. So again, how schools will have fog delays. We are looking at their websites to see when do they call those delays, and then I think we have an example in there, basically a little map that shows, I think that's slide 17. So these are like all the school districts that are in our forecast area. And as soon as we get that, as soon as we pick up that they've had a fog delay, we can shade in the map on a red color, and that gives us confirmation that there's dense fog in that area. So
look at a number of different ways of seeing where it's at and trying to get more of the heads up to the people that, if we can get people that information the night before, really, like, hey, the fog's going to be really bad in the morning, so they take an extra 10 or 15 minutes to go to work or to go to school or whatever, that little bit extra time can help them out. Even fog down to like a quarter of a mile, and that's kind of the general definition of the Weather Service of dense fog. Even at a quarter mile, you look at the data that comes from traffic engineers, you can still be driving 60, 70 miles an hour in quarter mile fog, and most people will have enough time to react to things in front of them. It's really when you start getting down to 500 feet, 200 feet, that's caused real significant problems. Schools won't do delays until the visibility gets down to 300 feet. I mean, that's significantly less than our quarter mile definition, which is, about 1,200 feet. So, just trying to get all these other data and try to serve our customers the best way we can in this really impactful weather we have.
So, you mentioned in a poster that you did at Salt Lake City at the National Weather Association meeting, Paul, about a WFO-owned mesonet and using that in high-impact events. Do you use that in the fog events, and also what are some of the other ones that you've used it for?
We don't use it for the fog events because we don't have visibility sensors on there. So what this network is, this mesonet, it's basically just off-the-shelf software that we go out and buy at like Davis Vantage Pro 2, I think is what we're using right now. And for about $1,500, we can get something out in the field. We can get it fielded and pretty much put them wherever we want because they're solar powered and we're transmitting data over a ham radio network basically. So we're getting 5-minute observations back into our office from about 15 to 20 stations across our forecast area. We put them in some really unique locations that you were never going to have an ASOS or an AWOS at. So some of our gap passes, we can put them in there and we can get some of those basically pinpoint winds of the strongest winds where they're occurring. We have one at the south end of the Grapevine, which is where Interstate 5 comes down out of the LA basin. And we've had winds there at the bottom of the Grapevine on the order of like 80 to 90 miles an hour. We see data that we never would have seen before just using the ASOS and AWOS. It's kind of interesting because it helps confirm some of the really high winds that the higher resolution models generate now. I know for some time, you look at these really high winds and kind of think, well, is this real or not? Her would be a really good example. Sometimes you'll see very high winds that are forecast and have passes out here in the west. You kind of think, is that real or not? Now we have to get out there to support like that. It's actually be that high out there. So this network that we're running has been really helpful in our wind forecast and also helpful in our rainfall forecast. We can get it from it as well. That goes into our bias correction forecast.
Well, there's no truth to the rumor that tonight's interview is coming from the International Space Station, is there, James Spann?
No, it's like it's a 20-meter sideband. Amateur radio operators would know what I mean. For those guys that are hams, we can pick it out of the noise, but it's getting like a 20-meter pileup during the sweepstakes in November or something.
Well, and Paul could tell you it's probably like a 200-car pileup in Fresno during one of these Tule fog events. So anyway, but Paul, we really appreciate you sticking in there and really hanging in there tonight to tell us all this. It's fascinating information, and I hope you can stick around for the rest of the show. I usually would let James wrap you here at this point, but anyway, it's been some fantastic stuff. So I hope you stick around to the end. And maybe if we get enough bandwidth there at the end, you can talk about the some of the high impact rainfall events in Phoenix that you studied over time.
Sure. Thanks.
All right, James, I'll toss it back to you and let you go to the recorded segments, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we got a lot of things to come here, so let's take a pause for WeatherBrains 101. Tony Rice and the Astronomy Outlook. We'll be back with Nate's News. We've got Picks of the Week. We'll do the Weather Roundup and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
Bill Murray mentioned Tule fog last week, so it seemed an appropriate topic to keep WeatherBrains listeners informed. Tule fog, and that's spelled T-U-L-E, is a thick ground fog that settles in the San Joaquin Valley and Sacramento Valley areas of California's Great Central Valley. Tule fog occurs from late fall through early spring after the first significant rainfall. The actual time frame for Tule fog to form is from about November 1st to March 31st. This phenomenon is named after the Tule grass wetlands of the Central Valley. Motor vehicle accidents caused by the Tule fog are the leading cause of weather-related casualties in California. Tule fog is a radiation fog which condenses when there is a high relative humidity, typically after a heavy rain, calm wind, and rapid cooling during the night. The nights are longer in the winter months, so this creates an extended period of ground cooling and thereby a pronounced temperature inversion in low altitudes. In California, Tule fog can extend from Bakersfield to Red Bluff, over 400 miles distance. Tule fog occasionally drifts as far west as the San Francisco Bay Area via the Carquinez Strait, and can even drift westward through the Golden Gate, opposite the usual course of coastal fog. Tule fog is characteristically confined mainly to the Great Central Valley due to the mountain ranges surrounding it. Because of the density of the cold air in the winter, winds are not able to dislodge the fog, and the high pressure of the warmer air above the mountaintops presses down on the cold air trapped in the valley, resulting in a dense, often immobile fog that can last for days or at times for weeks undisturbed. Temperatures are sufficiently cold. Visibility in Tule fog is usually less than 1/8 of a mile, but can be much lower with rapid variability to visibility. It is this variability that can cause chain reaction pileups on roads and freeways. In one such accident on Interstate 5 near Elk Grove, south of Sacramento, 25 cars and 12 semi-trailer trucks collided inside a fog bank in December of 1997, with 5 deaths and 28 injuries. Because of the lack of sunlight penetrating the fog layer, temperatures may struggle to climb above freezing, and episodes of freezing drizzle occasionally accompany Tule fog during winter. Such events can leave an invisible glaze of black ice on roadways, adding to travel woes. If you have a weather question, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, I'm Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook for the week of December 1st. On Thursday morning, NASA will take the first steps towards manned deep space exploration, with the launch of the Orion capsule on Exploration Flight Test 1. Orion is designed to reach destinations never before visited by humans, including an asteroid and Mars. EFT-1 is an uncrewed test flight which will test the systems critical to crew safety. Orion will travel farther into space during this test than any spacecraft built for humans has traveled in more than 40 years, some 3,600 miles or more than 10 times the orbital height ever reached by shuttle. Orion will orbit the Earth twice, covering nearly 60,000 miles over a 4.5-hour mission. The capsule's protective heat shield will be tested as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere at more than 20,000 miles an hour, generating temperatures exceeding 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. A series of parachutes will slow the craft to just 20 miles an hour, landing in the Pacific Ocean about 600 miles off of Baja, California. The U.S. anchorage will be waiting for her. It's an amphibious transport dock ship, which will reel the spaceship into her well deck. NASA TV will cover the launch and recovery beginning at about 4:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Central, or 11:30 a.m. for our WeatherBrains fans in Estonia. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, is coming up in just 3 weeks. You might think this would also bring the earliest sunset of the year. That actually occurs for much of the U.S. this week. Miami's earliest sunset occurred this past Saturday, Laredo, Texas on Sunday, Tampa's was Monday evening, College Station, Texas is tomorrow, Dallas on Wednesday, Birmingham on Thursday, and right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, we'll see the earliest sunset of 2014 on Friday. Most of Virginia, including Aubrey's Market, will see the earliest sunset on Saturday. Washington, D.C. area will see it on Sunday. New York and New England will see it next Monday. And Minnesota's Twin Cities will see their earliest sunset next Tuesday, nearly 2 weeks before the solstice. That's your astronomy outlook. You can follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Time now for the Weather Roundup. We talk about weather across the Great Fruited Plain, and this is December 1st, 2014, and more than likely it's either really cold or really warm where you are. In our case, Brian, we are really warm.
Oh, yes.
Birmingham, Alabama, 73 today, missing a record by 2. But you go about 150 miles up the road, and it's in the 30s. And I saw Minneapolis, St. Paul today had a high of 6 above 0. I was doing the weather at 6 o'clock Central Time this evening. Notice Chicago is at 18. Dr. John, how are you in Pennsylvania?
Well, James, I'm just looking at the current surface map. We made it to 62 today in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and our dew point actually made it to 52. And our dew points dropped into the upper 20s. So we're feeling the effects of the cold high to the north, which is going to set the stage for a wintry transition tomorrow morning. So we're talking about light snow going to sleet, freezing rain, and then rain tomorrow.
How much snow did you get with that last event, John?
You know, it was very much elevation dependent. So where I live, about a little over 400 feet above sea level, you know, about 3 inches with compaction. But there were reports just a couple hundred feet higher of up to 8 inches.
Wow. I think Aubrey did pretty well down in her market, too.
Yeah, I think she did, too. Yeah.
And we should note that the 2014 hurricane season ended. The Atlantic Basin was quiet. The Pacific Basin had the action this year. And, of course, I guess most of us kind of focus on the Atlantic, and that's our side here. But there were 8 named storms in the Atlantic Basin. And in the Gulf of Mexico, we had nothing in the northern Gulf. I mean, nothing threatening New Orleans, Mobile, Pensacola, the Florida Panhandle. So we were quite blessed. But the Pacific had the bulk of the action this year, and I guess that's it. I guess while we're doing a weather roundup, we ought to ask Joseph. Joseph, you're a long range expert. You sound like Joe Bastardi with all the teleconnections here.
No.
Weather for the winter for the United States. What do you say? The continental U.S.
My personal opinion is that we're going to have a backloaded winter. It's going to be a basin-wide El Nino. I don't think it's going to get to Modoki status like it's being touted, just because, for instance, if you look at the latest subsurface, we've got, you know, the TAO showing anomalies of +4 just underneath the surface at 120 degrees west, trying to move east and up into the 100 degree west region. So I don't think that it's going to represent a true Modoki, because you need region 1 and 2 to be very, very much cooler than normal.
All right, good deal. Well, I tell you what, let's go over here, and I'm going to find the button for Nate's News, this special song with the Morse code embedded. Hang on, Nate, I got to find your music here. I'm not prepared. Ooh, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, when news breaks out,
we fix
Nate's
it.
Got it. Yeah, we fix it. if it's happening in the world of weather, it's news to us. Here's.
Yeah, I think that was a Daily Show promo. When news breaks, we fix it. So we just talked about that, but hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin ended, and probably of note, the range of hurricane forecasts from NOAA to NC State, to Colorado State, to just about all of them the week that I could find, actually called for a below normal year, and that's pretty much what we had. The one hit we had was here in North Carolina. Right before July 4th was Hurricane Arthur. Did a little last-minute intensification as it made landfall across the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and then was out of here, and most of North Carolina, the Outer Banks, was back up and open for business for the long holiday weekend. So a testament to a couple of things: preparedness, number one, but also I think we got lucky with Arthur. It didn't have a chance to sit and churn and do all the bad stuff that the slow-moving storms can do. So certainly lucked out with that one. And of also note, if we make it all the way to June 1st, the beginning of next hurricane season, that puts us somewhere in the 3,500 days since we've had a major hurricane make landfall, which is a crazy long stretch of time. And we're, this isn't how statistics work, but we're living on borrowed time here. And don't let this drought of major hurricanes fool you, because so upon whom it ends, it will be not good. The fallout from Governor Cuomo's comments, shall we say, about the Buffalo National Weather Service performance with the big lake effect snow we had a couple weeks ago continue. The Associated Press actually put out an article basically refuting almost point by point the commentary by Governor Cuomo, and certainly the lasts in a long line of those, actually. Governor Cuomo has since backed off those comments, but certainly got a lot of folks wound up. So big deal there. And an interesting thing, a story from the Wichita Eagle, Stan Finger, who's a great follow on Twitter if you like a mix of weather and crime. He's Stan Finger on Twitter. Did an article writing up an article in Science written by friends of the show, Greg Carbon and Harold Brooks, talking about the number of tornado days, the number of damaging tornado days going down, but the number of outbreak days going up. Very interesting read there. Worth a Google to find that particular article there. And actually, Dr. John Scala is going to make that his pick of the week, so you can read more about it on weatherbrains.com. We'll link it right over to that article. Finally, a little news from the National Weather Association. This, might have been a little buried there, and all the news about the new digital seal and the new shiny. Yeah, dues are going up next year, going from $50 to $60 a year for individuals, then $200 to $250 for a corporate member. Still a bargain and still a great organization to be a part of, but be aware that the price to play poker is going up just a little bit, and a number of new initiatives are behind that. Janice Bunting, the executive director, not talking about those yet, but I'm sure she'll be on WeatherBrains to fill us in on some of the new stuff coming, in addition to the digital seal. And also, NWA elections open until December 31st. So if you're an NWA member, you can vote on offices like president and counselor and that sort of thing, and an opportunity to pick the leadership for the organization for the coming year. And that is all the news we have. If you have an item you'd like to share with us, and then we share it on, of course, send it to us, email at weatherbrains.com. You can also tweet me at NSJ. You can find me on the Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
I noticed Bill just hung up on us. Who made him mad? Nate, did you do that?
I did not do that, although I did refer to him as a sissy because he bailed for sleep.
Yeah, great.
We know about
he has
sleep.
some early meeting. I've actually got to be somewhere downtown at 7:30, which means I have to be up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to do the production, to get out on time and to be down there on time. So, come on. So they sleep. But anyway, Aubrey is out this week, so we will do a double email segment next week. But it's time now for Picks of the Week. And actually, Skydaver is out this week. He said he's still on tryptophan, and he's zonked out from the turkey.
Oh, man.
So we'll just go around the horn and do a Pick of the Week. This is something related to weather. This can be a website. This can be hardware, books, software, you name it. And let me just jump right in, and I'll start with mine. And the question is, have any of you guys seen this product?
No.
Not till you pointed it out.
The weather station for smartphones.
New and shiny.
Wow.
Netotmo. Now, so somebody asked me about this, and the first time I saw it was today, and I can't recommend it because I haven't seen this. But apparently it lets you read CO2 levels inside, indoor humidity.
Will it tell you
indoor air
whether or not
quality.
your local WeatherBrains host is emitting too much hot air?
Yeah.
That's an extra cost module.
I love this one. It says air out when you're home when you need to.
Speaking of that, James, and going back to the weather roundup, we hit 74 here in Raleigh. I had the window right over here to my right open today, which was a really good thing because I had to crawl into it this afternoon. Knock the kids off. I don't carry a key to my house because I have a garage door opener. Well, apparently somebody thought it'd be great to lock the door from the garage to the inside of the house. So it's a good thing I opened the window because I had to use it to get into my house to get lunch today.
Nate's had a hard week. The cat peed
really
on the
has.
bed, and he's got locked out. This is just bad. But
So
anyway,
donations for therapeutic flight lessons being accepted. Just head over to PayPal.
Yep, there you go. But anyway, this thing, it says plan your outdoor activities. It measures outdoor temperature, outdoor relative humidity, outdoor air quality, barometric pressure,
That's interesting.
and weather. Yeah, it is interesting. Analyze the past, observe the present, forecast the future.
How far out did they go?
Does Governor Cuomo, is he planning on deploying a bunch of those across the state?
There you go.
Yeah, this is his brand new New York weather service here, the Netamo weather station.
I think that's Netatmo, like
Netatmo. Okay.
My guess.
Here's my long-term prediction on this, though. We're going to get all of this data eventually into the data stream, and people are going to be messing with it. Or, what do you do with a thermometer that's in your pocket? It's obviously not going to be reading accurately, but I guarantee you that in some data streams, not the weather service, this is going to make it in, and it's going to cause havoc.
Oh boy, Kevin's that's probably right. But look, I'm not endorsing this product. I'll make it perfectly clear.
So it's his fault.
What'd you say, Kev? Say that one more time.
Since you're recommending it, it's your fault.
Oh, great. No, again, I stress I have no knowledge of this product. Somebody asked me about it today. I don't think anybody has had any experience. So if you had any experience with this thing, send us a note.
Every purchase is going to the James Spann Snow Tire Fund.
Exactly. we need to make that up. Hey, Kev, you got a pick for us since you got 7 minutes to airtime here?
I got a really quick one. It has nothing to do with weather. Well, it almost does. But, I'm new to the station here, and I got to call out one of the creative services guy, Glenn Backus. He did a promo. Apparently, he one-ups himself every year here on the Christmas promo. And he has inserted all of the air talent from the station into portions of the movie of A Wonderful Life, or It's a Wonderful Life.
Great.
He's got all these scenes in front of the green screen, and he went and cut them in. And I have the YouTube link, thanks to Brian, on WeatherBrains.com.
I got to see that.
Yeah, he's real
That's
good.
cool, Kevin. That's cool.
It's pretty neat.
Love the Christmas promos. All right, and I think Kevin did drop a link in the chat session there, Nate. Brian Peters, what's your pick of the week?
Well, I don't have to go to my pick of the week guru, Dr. John Scala. I have one this week.
You're turning out as bad as JB.
I take that as a compliment.
Since you should.
Since we're on the topic of weather stations and it's Christmas time, I have personal experience with the Davis Vantage Pro, and so I'm going to have a link to that. I think it's a very good weather station. It's kind of a Cadillac, I think, of the weather stations. It's a little more expensive, but it's good quality, and I really like it. So I'll post that link up there.
Okay, good deal. All right, Dr. John, what's your pick of the week?
Well, Nate actually alluded to it, and it's a great article. Whenever we have significant weather events, there's always the question looming in the background: was this a climate change impact? Well, the article states and quotes. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
It quotes Greg Carbon as well as Harold Brooks, who probably knows the climatology of tornadoes better than anyone in the U.S. And what their research is showing is that the number of days in which we are witnessing tornadoes is going down. But the days in which we have tornado outbreaks is going up, and those outbreaks are containing more tornadoes. Interesting. So this article is definitely one to read.
Yeah, and if it's Brooks and Greg, they're the best. I mean, those guys, like you say, Dr. John, they know climatology with tornadoes better than anybody else. So
absolutely.
It's a fascinating read.
But I have a question about their work.
Well, go ahead, Brian.
Is it truly an increase, or is the weather reporting getting much better?
Well, knowing Harold,
I believe that counted for that.
Yes, they would have taken that bias out.
Okay.
Good question.
All right.
We'll dive into that. I will read that. That's fascinating. All right, Nate, what's your pick of the week?
Article from IO9. Why do we make forecasters lie to us? It's a good read. Why is it that we predict 15% chance of rain when we know it's not going to rain? We're lying to people and they want it.
All right, let's just. All right, I got to hustle, guys. Almost news time.
Real quick, hey, the one that I had was when I was over at the Climate Prediction Center's meeting in St. Louis just this past October. About 60 presentations that they had over the week-long event is my weather pick of the week, and it's got all of them on the PDF. So. Cool.
And again, all these links are going to be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. And Let's see. It looks like Paul maybe lost his bandwidth again, but if he has a pick, we will get that up on the website. But again, as I look at my clock here, we have got to wrap this thing up for another week. This show is typically produced Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. You can watch it live through a lot of different methods, but most people use live.bigbrainsmedia.com. It's got a chat room there. The audio podcast, your favorite audio client, your podcast client, it's there. If you'd like to write us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. All of our social media accounts are up on the website as well. And we have a listener feedback form. We'd love to hear from you. And we like iTunes comments as well. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, guys, thank you all. I got to run.
Thank you. Had an awesome time.